Coming up, some area school districts reporting COVID cases among students after the first week of school. Freeman hospital officials talk about a treatment aimed at keeping COVID-19 patients out of hospital beds. And how much is too much when it comes to Labor Day weekend gas prices? Good Thursday morning. Welcome to the Koam Morning News, where we find ourselves at 5 o'clock. I'm Michael Hayslip. We had a wide variety of temperatures yesterday. Now, we're all going to feel the heat for our first full week of September as we go live over 7th and Rangeline in Joplin, where currently we sit at 72 degrees. Look at that humidity. That's a good 10% below what we had yesterday. Now, our temperatures ranging, no, you know what our problem would be? Our problem, here, this is the great thing about live television. What if I told you, this is like a 30 for 30. It's like an ESPN 30 for 30. What if I told you that the microphone fell off its clip? And see, as I put this back on, we'll do it here. Yeah, let's do this. Let everybody behind the curtain. It's absolutely fine. So, folks, this is a great thing about live television. There's your microphone. There's your clip. When you put it on your tie, if one comes off the other, it doesn't work like that. I have our cameraman, Marcus, who's laughing hilariously at me right now, rightfully so. And I hope you at home are having a good time as well, because if you can't laugh at yourself, then you can't laugh at anybody. Our temperatures range from the high 60s into the low 70s, absolutely fine. We still do have a couple heat advisories for 2 counties down in northeast Oklahoma. I tell you what, we got up into the low 90s yesterday around the Miami and Grove areas. Not going to be that hot today, and that's thanks to a little cloud cover that we're going to have. It's going to move in from the west right there, as you can see it developing right now in central Kansas and headed our way. But the one nice thing about it, not a whole lot of precipitation with it, is that will stay up through the Nebraska and north central Kansas areas. Any rain that we get today is going to be a quick raindrop or two. But those temperatures a little bit above normal for the beginning of September. And when we put future track into motion, the clouds kind of come and go. And then as we work into a Labor Day weekend, what we are going to see is a hot beginning of next week, as we're going to push those 90s all the way into Tuesday and Wednesday. Local school districts are seeing a number of COVID cases after the first week of school. School districts in Jasper, Newton, and McDonald counties have seen confirmed cases among students and staff, as well as a number of quarantines. In fact, in Carthage, Missouri, there are 10 active cases among students, 1 staff case, and 47 students are under quarantine. In Neosho, 22 students have tested positive, along with 3 staff members, and 48 students are in quarantine. The first day of school in Neosho had 9 positive cases, but the superintendent says those students were not from the school.
Those are students that called in and said, you know, we're positive or we're quarantined. And so we thought, wow, with that number, what's it going to be like when we come back? And really, it has stayed pretty much under control.
Coming up in the next half hour, we'll hear from the Newton County Health Department on what it's expecting before the school year started and what they're expecting now. Freeman Hospital hosted a COVID-19 briefing yesterday, and at it, Freeman officials talked about the monoclonal antibody infusion therapy. Well, that's now offered at the hospital. It's a therapy meant to keep high-risk COVID-19 patients out of hospital beds.
Positive, those are the ones that we can get into our infusion center and basically get that on board. And we try to do that anywhere from the first day up into 10 days after they've tested positive.
Yellow tags.
Freeman says it's seen an increase in COVID-19 patients of all ages that now have a higher need for care. Hospitals in parts of the southern United States are running low on oxygen as the coronavirus pandemic continues. As far as the 4-state area, well, KOAM's Mike Mahoney spoke to some local hospitals and 4 state medical supply companies to find out more.
As the coronavirus rages on and the Delta variant continues to put people in the hospital, many southern hospitals in states like Florida, Texas, South Carolina, and Louisiana are running low on oxygen. Joplin's Mercy Hospital says that while their oxygen use has roughly tripled in the last 6 to 8 weeks, Mercy and its suppliers can handle the increase.
We've seen a significant climb in the amount of oxygen usage. But as far as deliveries and shortages and any notifications from the suppliers who are monitoring us regularly, we don't see any concerns.
Hospitals like Mercy may be able to handle the increased oxygen demand, but smaller operations like Kansas Medical Supply in Columbus, Kansas are feeling the pinch. They provide at-home and portable use oxygen tanks, and manager Crystal Blake says they've had to cut back on the number of tanks they can provide to customers.
We do the home fill, where they fill the tanks themselves at home, and whereas we would originally take like 4 or 5 tanks for them to fill, we're now taking like 3.
Crystal says the demand for oxygen tanks wasn't always this high, but the Delta variant has forced Kansas Medical Supply to both ration and order more tanks.
Now we are having more cases in this area to where, when it first came out, when COVID was first out, we didn't have a whole lot of requests for oxygen. There was some, but we have more requests for oxygen now with the variant and increased cases in our area.
Mercy says the majority of their COVID patients dealing with severe illness are unvaccinated, and they recommend getting the shot so you don't find yourself gasping for air. In Columbus, Kansas, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
A representative of Allen County Regional Hospital in Iola says it's also running low on oxygen, but monitoring the shortage situation in case other states need it so they can stay prepared. An Oklahoma judge says she is temporarily blocking a state law banning public school mask mandates, but that personal exemptions to mask wearing will be required. Judge Natalie Mize ruling drew praise from Governor Kevin Stitt, who opposes mask mandates without exemptions, and Dr. Mary Clark, president of the Oklahoma State Medical Association, joined the lawsuit challenging that law. Governor Stitt says the ruling is, quote, a victory for parental choice, end quote. And Clark says it allows schools to maintain local control. Judge Mize said the injunction will take effect next week when she issues an official written order. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly announces that she's forming a work group. She's going to call it Safer Classrooms. The governor says it's to protect kids and school staff from COVID-19. Group's going to be made up of pediatricians, family physicians, pharmacists, and psychologists.
There is nothing more important than keeping our students healthy and alive. The Safer Classrooms work group will help all of us make informed decisions to protect our children and our communities.
Governor Kelly says the work group will meet weekly to highlight the importance of protecting kids from COVID-19's Delta variant. Crowder College in Neosho, Missouri is looking for a new president. As part of that process, school is looking for input from the community. School hosted a public forum laying out the groundwork for what they're calling a presidential profile, which will be used in the recruitment and evaluation of candidates.
I can feel there's a good feeling here on campus. It's a great culture, a great institution, and I think will be a very attractive for some highly qualified presidential applicants.
Crowder's current president, Glenn Coltharp, he will retire at the end of the school year. As we roll around 5:07, take a look at our weather trend for the next 24 hours. Now that we've rolled into September, going to make it up into the high 80s today. Heat advisories for the far southwestern portion of the 4 states through northeast Oklahoma. Future Track wants to feed us just a little bit of rain here as we work toward the Labor Day weekend. Watch the left-hand portion of your screen as we get into Friday and Saturday. That's where it will appear. It's also going to be hot on Labor Day as we'll make it all the way up into the mid-90s. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, quarterback time for Pitt State and Missouri Southern. Both teams are kicking off tonight. Plus, We find out how much those Labor Day plans are going to put you out when it comes to gas money. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. Be right back. Pitt State Gorillas, Missouri Southern Lions. We're opening up MIAA football tomorrow. It's about time. We haven't done this since 2019. Gorillas on the road taking on 13th ranked Central Missouri. So let's talk about some quarterbacks going into tonight. For Pitt State, sophomore Mack Sexton. He's going to be under center this fall. Now last fall, team's 4 non-conference games, Sexton threw for 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. And if you've ever talked to him or seen him play, you know he likes to sling it. Big fan of the new offense under head coach Brian Wright.
I like throwing it around. I mean, it fits my style, and I think he enjoys it too, moving the ball down the field in chunks. I like throwing it all around the field.
He's picked up our offense well. He understands what we're trying to do as we move the ball down the field, not only in the passing game, but in the run game, and counting how many defenders are in the box and so forth. So he's done a good job of that.
As for Missouri Southern, Lions on the road all the way up in Kearney, Nebraska tonight. Got a brand new coach. It is Lion alum Atiba Bradley. All right, Missouri Southern's rolling out a new quarterback, Dawson Hurl. He's a redshirt freshman, comes out of William Chrisman High School in Missouri.
He's very poised. He very rarely gets rattled. He's a guy that has a very short-term memory. A bad throw doesn't affect his next throw. He's a guy that has a lot of confidence for his age to be able to step into a huddle and demand the respect and the attention of the team. And so when your signal caller has those attributes, it's a very good thing.
Proud to say that Saturday morning, I sent a text. It simply said, War Dog Pride. Miami War Dogs snapped a 19-game losing streak last Friday. They won their season opener over Dewey, and now those young War Dogs, well, they're preparing for their home opener this Friday, aiming to do something the program has not done in 16 years.
The Miami War Dogs are coming off their first win since 2019.
It feels great. I mean, it just proves to the kids that hard work pays off.
It was so loud, I'll tell you that right now, but it was just crazy. Everybody's just hyped, jumping on each other, hugging, little crying here and there. It's just not used to it. It's definitely a different feeling. Feels amazing. Just starting out like this, want to know.
This Friday, they'll play their home opener against Jay.
A very physical football team and kind of the old style pursuit of the wishbone. So it's going to be a very physical game and see how our kids respond to the physicality, because we come off of a finesse team in Dewey who throws it 30-plus times a game to a ground pound team that we're going to have to respond to.
With a win, the War Dogs will be off to a 2-0 start for the first time since 2005.
Well, it'll just be a huge confidence builder. I mean, it's what these kids need. It's not going to be athleticism right now that we're lacking in. It's just the maturity and just some self-confidence, knowing that they're still capable of doing it. They won at the grade school and middle school levels, and that's a total different ball game. But now you have 14, 15-year-olds, facing 18, 19-year-olds, and that's a big maturity division right there. But if our kids can find a way to fight and win right now, the future's really bright here at Miami.
This Miami roster is a young one, featuring just 6 juniors and 6 seniors. It's their sophomore class with 20 players that brings the numbers and plenty of talent, hoping to make winning a weekly expectation now and in the future.
This group right here is pretty special that they're sophomores now, and all they've known is us as far as a staff. So we established stability with those kids. The relationships are great, and they've really bought in.
They're definitely bigger, stronger coming up throughout the program. And we definitely rely on them with the numbers that they have. They're pretty much the heart of our team.
We have a challenging upcoming schedule, but 1 week at a time, we feel like this is a team that we match up well with, and we need to go get another one.
War Dogs are in their 4th season under Zach Gardner. Kickoff for Friday's game against Jay. We're rolling 7 o'clock Friday night. St. Louis Cardinals wrapping up that 3-game series with the Reds. 2 teams had a doubleheader after Game 2 was rained out, thanks in part to the remnants of Ida yesterday. In Game 1, Cardinals come back, win it late, 5-4. I think everybody who knows me well enough knows what I feel about that. Paul Goldschmidt, 2 for 2, 2 home runs, including one in the first inning. That just kind of put the cap on everything. And, well, all right, so game 2. Get you some, Nick. Nick Castellanos. Reds lead 2-1. Nick Castellanos. Get you some, Nick. Home run number 26 on the year. He's got some pent-up frustration, folks. He's been cold as ice lately. Great gesture for the fans. And Kyle Farmer. And it's interesting because Farmer's last 3 hits have all been for extra bases. 2 of them home runs and 1 of them a double. So it ends up being a split. It doesn't matter though, because everybody is still chasing the Padres for second place in the NL Walk. In the American League, Kansas City Royals on the field for Game 2 of their series against Cleveland Indians. Dropped the opener last night 7-2. As far as the final score, I'll catch up with you on that one. I was too involved with the Resident Cardinals. I'm not going to lie to you. Still to come on the KOM Morning News, we got our question of the morning. How much do you think you'll be paying at the pump come the holiday weekend as gas prices after Ida are on the rise? In a check on our 7-day forecast in the KOM Morning News Report. Temperatures ranging anywhere from the high 60s, low 70s on this Thursday morning. Very delightful as well because our humidity about 10 percentage points lower than what we had yesterday. No worries on the Skywatch Storm Tracker. Remember, we know what the blue is. If you're a regular viewer of the KOM Morning News, that's just the old sweeping radar. Now look at what we got out to the west right here. We're going to be keeping our eyes on that throughout the course of the day. Cloud cover is going to seep in first. Not going to get a whole lot of rain from that. That's not really going to be the issue today. The cloud cover is actually going to help us out quite a bit as we're going to have temperatures into the high 80s, low 90s later on. You can tell all that kind of hangs around there, that central Nebraska and northern Kansas area. What we will have for today, got those heat advisories up for northeast Oklahoma. And remember, we are going to be above average for the next 2 days before we get some rain on Saturday that'll kind of cool us off. And then a very hot Labor Day coming up on Monday with a high of 92. All right, now with that Labor Day weekend, gas prices are already higher than normal. Now we got Hurricane Ida. We got the remnants of Ida. That direct hit on our nation's oil and gas industry. Well, that could send the price at the pump even higher. Mandy Gaither with a closer look at what experts say when you can catch a break.
Hurricane Ida threatening to spike gas prices nationwide as millions of people are expected to hit the road for the Labor Day weekend.
We always see gas prices increase, but this year we're going to see them go up just a little bit more, and that's because of the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. She took off about 13% of our refining capacities.
AAA says many of the major refineries in the region are shut down or running at reduced rates, and major pipelines carrying gas, diesel, and jet fuel from the Gulf Coast to other states were also shut as a precaution ahead of Ida.
With a Category 4 storm that typically takes 3+ weeks for refineries to get started again and get back to normal operations. Right now, we don't have a timeline from those refineries when they'll be operating again.
Gas prices have already shot up nearly 80% from their low point in April 2020, but demand remains high as more people hit the road, and gas prices will likely keep climbing. According to AAA on Wednesday, the price of a gallon of regular gas stood at $3.17.
Headed into Labor Day weekend, we do expect it to be the most expensive prices we've seen for the holiday since 2014.
And while AAA says prolonged power outages could keep refineries and pipelines offline, potentially raising gas prices, once refineries go back online, AAA expects prices to come down as demand drops after Labor Day.
People are traveling less, school's back in session. So there should be some relief coming to the pump. I'd say mid to late September.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Our question for you this morning, how much do you expect to pay for gas over the Labor Day weekend? Gave you 4 different options. Log on to KOMNewsNow.com/vote. Health Watch next.
SNS.
Topping Health Watch this morning, researchers in Spain are using, you guessed it, artificial intelligence to help stroke patients calculate the risk of suffering another stroke. Now, experts believe their new study will identify the most important factors for preventing stroke recurrence and also help pinpoint lifestyle changes or treatments that can help. A new study finds women are more likely to experience work stress and fatigue that could increase the risk of a heart attack or a stroke. Researchers in Switzerland found the risk factors are rising faster among women than they are of men. They believe it could be linked to an increase in the number of women working full-time and juggling responsibilities at home. New research at the University of California, San Diego, working to understand why blood vessels are leaky when people suffer from sepsis. Scientists have discovered that a certain protein is linked to blood vessel integrity and hope the finding will help develop drugs that can make the vessels more stable. That's a look at some of today's health stories as you're watching the KOM Morning News. We'll be up into the high 80s, low 90s with heat advisories through northeast Oklahoma. Tomorrow's going to be a scorcher. Not bad over the weekend. Be back right after this. Coming up, some area school districts reporting COVID cases among students after the first week of school. Also, the latest on the Taliban takeover of U.S. military equipment, doing so in Afghanistan. And how much is too much when it comes to paying for gas over the Labor Day weekend? Good Thursday morning. Welcome to the KOAM Morning News, where we find ourselves at 5:30. I'm Michael Hayslip. We've got those stories, much more on the way. But first, let's go to our weather trend for this September the 2nd, as it's going to be another warm one. Not too bad, not abnormally warm. I don't want to say that. And the Skywatch Storm Tracker has stayed clean so far. However, I want to point out what's going on to our west, because we got a little activity cooking out there. Number one, before we get any rain, it's going to feed us some cloud cover, but we're going to keep our eyes on what's developing out in western Kansas, because it is going to continue to push our way. Similar in nature to what we had on Monday, when everything developed over Omaha, pushed down on us and did not want to break up. This looks like it wants to break up, okay? Famous last words, right? So as this thing develops over Hays, what we're seeing right now is a very heavy rain, and with the high pressure we have over us, it's going to take a long time to get here, but I do want to point out that is a possibility for late morning, early afternoon. So I'm going to go ahead and play devil's advocate and say, take the umbrella with you. That way you got it. We're not going to have the major cool down like what we did when that thing rolled in on Monday, and we had those nice cooler temperatures after the rain. But this gives you an idea here when we put future track in motion. It's hard pressed to make it through Wichita, but I do think we do see some pop-ups here for the afternoon. And then as we get into tonight, a little sustainability with it as it sweeps through. And that will provide not only some thunder and lightning, but also some pockets of heavy rain, especially in the northern portions of the 4 states. Temperatures, we'll go 90s for the end of the work week. And then as we get into the weekend, that's pretty nice right there on Saturday and Sunday. But then look at what happens on Monday. Get some morning rain, and then we jaunt right back into the 90s. Labor Day, I tell you what, if you've got Labor Day afternoon plans, you'll be fine. Not going to be a big deal with the rain. But I tell you what, it is going to be a little bit steamy. It's going to be hot and humid on that Labor Day. Local school districts are reporting students testing positive for COVID, and doing so after the first week of school. Districts in Jasper and Newton County, Missouri have seen positive cases, not only among students, but also staff, and they've had to quarantine several students as well. KOAM's Zach Dodge details the story and why one 4-state health department is not surprised to see these numbers.
22 students in Neosho are currently not in school, under isolation after testing positive.
The cases that we have seem to be somewhat isolated and controlled.
9 of them on the first day.
That first day we were somewhat alarmed and what we found out, and those are students that called in and said, you know, we're positive.
Other than that, the highest increase from day to day has been 5 from August 31st to September 1st.
I haven't really pinpointed as to where most of these kids might have gotten it, but certainly the ones when we asked them, there's no clear, a school staff member or a schoolmate had it, and then we were in contact with them.
Larry Bergner at the Newton County Health Department isn't surprised by the cases.
We expect to see positives.
And it isn't just in Neosho. As of Friday, Joplin had 17 positives among students and 135 students with quarantine designations. And Carthage had 10 positives with 47 students being quarantined. At least in Newton County anyway, Bergner expects the year to look about like it did last year.
September, October, we saw increasing numbers, and as we got into late October, November, we saw a rapid decline.
If we can manage like we are right now to keep the case level low, I think we'll be okay. I think if we see a spike in cases, we'll be looking at other solutions.
Those other solutions in Neosho would be requiring masks if 7% of students in a school test positive, or closing schools if positive student cases reach 10%. In Neosho, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Right now in Neosho, 0.5% of students have tested positive. 1.6% of students have been identified as a close contact. A Missouri judge has refused to reinstate federal unemployment benefits that were cut in June. That's when Governor Mike Parson pulled out of several programs. Cole County Circuit Judge John Beadham said the court, quote, would not substitute its judgment, end quote, for that of the governor. The ruling by Judge Beadham came a day after lawyers representing Missouri residents who lost the jobless benefits asked for reinstatement with back pay. That also happened to be the question of yesterday morning's Something to Talk About. The enhanced benefits added money to the unemployment checks for out-of-work Americans to help ease the crunch caused by shutdowns for the COVID-19 pandemic. But some Republican governors, including Governor Parson, ended the benefits to try to prod people to rejoin the workforce. In Overland Park, Kansas, police announced yesterday evening a 23-year-old officer who was battling COVID-19 died. Officer Freddie Castro tested positive for COVID in July.
Sad. He fought till this afternoon when it was time for him to go. I mean, he was here for 37 days, 35 of those days on that ventilator, and I tell you, to see what he has gone through and the shape that he was in, no one should go through that. This virus is not to be taken lightly.
Police Chief Frank Donchez releasing a statement on Facebook that says, "It is with a heavy heart that I share that Overland Park police officer Freddie Castro passed away a short time ago. Freddie was young, enthusiastic, and so proud to be a police officer. He left a lasting impact on our department, and we will miss him. Please keep Freddie's family and friends and his OPPD family in your thoughts and prayers." The head of Oklahoma's Medicaid agency says the $164 million appropriated by the Oklahoma legislature for Medicaid expansion remains untouched in an agency savings account. Oklahoma Healthcare Authority CEO Kevin Corbett told legislators the agency has used savings generated from Medicaid expansion and federal funds so far to pay for the expansion. Kevin Corbett told lawmakers an estimated 700 to 1,800 Oklahomans are qualifying each day for health coverage under the expansion, although he expects that number to slow down in the coming months. As of Monday, Corbett says about 170,000 people had qualified for Medicaid under the expansion. Crowder College in Neosho, Missouri is looking for a new president. Now, as part of that process, the school is looking for input from the public as the school hosted a public forum to lay out the groundwork for what they're calling a presidential profile. that's going to be used in the recruitment and evaluation of future candidates.
There are many capable people out there, but finding someone who's truly a fit for this college culture, which is very unique, everyone is, but that's going to be the critical challenge for the search committee and for the board. And I'm confident that we will find a really good president moving forward for the future.
Crowder's current president, Glenn Coltharp, he will retire at the end of the school year. Area high school counselors being honored at Missouri Southern as the college hosted Counselor Appreciation Day, a chance for counselors to learn about new scholarships, housing, and also academic opportunities.
New programs that we offer, new housing options, new scholarships. They're also going to be hearing from some of our academic programs who are going to tell them everything that is involved with that academic program, mostly our new ones, mostly our very immersive, very hands-on learning ones.
Counselors also had a chance to win one of 5 $1,000 scholarships, and get this, they were able to distribute it however they saw fit. Wonderful job by Missouri Southern right there. Now, as part of Missouri Southern's Japan semester, students were also learning about an iconic Japanese film. You may know it as Godzilla. At a seminar in Corley Auditorium called Godzilla Unbound, students learned about the film's cultural impact. The original Japanese version of the film was not just a scarefest monster movie. It actually featured allusions to the American atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Godzilla Unbound, just one piece of a larger mission at Missouri Southern this semester.
Be intrigued by some aspect of Japanese culture and perhaps want to learn more and study on their own, and so they're just getting a brief taste of Japan today. We have really 40 more events yet to come. It's just the beginning of our Japan semester.
Other unique events this week included a sidewalk chalk contest and a screening of the film Aikuru. That's a look at this morning's top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, what the U.S. military left behind and what the Taliban can take over in Afghanistan. Plus, Labor Day weekend's on the way. How much are you willing to pay at the pump to get out of town? But first, now that it's 5:42, somewhere in there. Said 5:37. I'm gonna be like, that's undershooting it. It's about 5:42. Highs today in the high 80s. We still have heat advisories for northeast Oklahoma, just 2 counties. And then as you push off to the west, yeah, you're going to be up into the 90s today. Out to the east and up to the north, we'll roll mid 80s. Be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this. Topping World Watch, while President Biden puts the focus back on national security and domestic issues, there are similar challenges for the new leaders of Afghanistan. Taliban now trying to form a working government and also govern a country which is much more complex and sophisticated and more advanced than the ones they ruled more than 20 years ago. As Sam Kiley shows us, it is also a country in crisis on multiple fronts.
The spoils of war, body armor, helmets, aircraft, all left by Afghanistan's army and the US rush for the exit from America's longest war. The US says it destroyed what it could not take when the last American boot left the ground from Kabul International Airport.
We have also demilitarized equipment that we did not bring out of the airport. That included a number of MRAPs, up to 70 MRAPs that we demilitarized and will never be used again by anyone. 27 Humvees, a little tactical vehicle that will never be driven again. And additionally, on the ramp at HKIA are a total of 73 aircraft. Those aircraft will never fly again.
Although these armoured NATO MRAP vehicles have clearly been successfully salvaged. But after 20 years of war, terror attacks and political murder, the triumphant Taliban striking a conciliatory tone at the same airport. The Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan wants good relations with the Americans through diplomacy. However, the Americans failed here, They failed. From the military perspective, they failed to achieve their goals. But the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan wants to have good relations with the whole world on behalf of the nation, said the Taliban spokesman. He repeated orders for Taliban special forces to treat even former Afghan enemies with respect. I call on all our soldiers to treat the people well because the people have the right to peace, to unite. And we are the servants of the nation. We must not oppress the people, he said. In Kabul, some celebrated the US withdrawal with gunfire. In daylight and in persistent fear of the city's new Taliban masters, a more muted response. It is good that Americans withdrew from the country. They must let Afghans discuss what they will agree on and how they would form a government. The government must be inclusive, acceptable to all Afghanistan, he said. The Taliban has promised to deliver that and to allow anyone who wants to leave to go, including at least 100 Americans still trapped in Afghanistan. Their future administration and aid and trade depends on it. Failure to deliver will inevitably lead to a victory spoiled. Sam Kiley, CNN Doha.
With the news you need to know before you head out the door, right after this. So check out today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Local school districts are seeing a number of COVID cases after the first week of school. Districts in Jasper, Newton, and McDonald counties have seen confirmed cases among students and staff, as well as a number of quarantines. In Carthage, there are 10 active cases among students, 1 staff case, 47 students under quarantine, and in Neosho, 22 students have tested positive, along with 3 staff members, with 48 under quarantine. First day of school in Neosho had 9 positive cases. Superintendent says those students were not, in fact, from the school. In Crowder College in Neosho, it's looking for a new president, and as part of that process, the school looking for input from the public as the school hosted a public forum laying the groundwork for a presidential profile to be used in recruitment and evaluation of candidates. That's the check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Time to go on board a historic train bound for the remote Great Basin Desert in northern Nevada. Its passengers know they're not there to see sunny landscape, actually focused on views after dark. Lee Cowan takes us for a ride on the Star Train.
These tracks have been here for over 100 years, and to this day, they're about the only man-made things you'll see way out here.
If you leave Ely, there's a sign that says next gas, 164 miles. And they mean 164 miles.
Mark Bassett looks the part of a railroad manager, and it's not for show.
Are you enjoying the trip?
I am. I'm having a great time.
Great.
He's the president of the historic Nevada Northern Railway out of Ely, Nevada. A town built by this railroad that is still chugging along.
It's a long way from just about anywhere, though, to come.
And, you know, that is our strength and our weakness. If we were near Las Vegas right now, it would have all been bulldozed down. But because of our remoteness, it was preserved.
These trains have been running ever since copper was discovered here. There's no ore to haul anymore, but the railroad does offer passengers something as black as coal.
All aboard!
A night ride under the stars. Just before sunset, it heads out for a 3-hour ride toward Great Basin National Park, certified as one of the darkest regions in the lower 48 states. No lights are allowed. Way up ahead is Park Ranger Charlie Reed, racing the sun to set up telescopes before the train arrives.
You just kind of let the sky do the talking for you. You don't have to do much for it because once you see it, you see it.
And what the Star Train passengers are about to see still impresses even him.
Does it ever get overwhelming out here when you see so
Well, I'll
much
tell
of
you,
it?
the first time I came here, first night I was outside my house, I looked up and I was like, uh-oh.
Because there was just so much.
Uh-oh, I can't find my marker stars. I can't find any of the stars I used to navigate throughout the sky because there were so many.
100 or so years ago, a night sky like this was oddly ordinary. But now, more than a third of the planet's population can't see the Milky Way with the naked eye, all because our world is increasingly polluted with light.
The more darkness we lose, we're going to lose the universe, quite literally, and all the secrets that universe holds.
As the train creeps to a stop, passengers are greeted by the eerie glow of red lanterns.
What do you see from a young man?
And then it happens.
Whoa.
Yeah?
Whoa!
The view of our universe.
Oh my gosh!
The way most have never seen it.
Oh wow, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
This is incredible. I've never seen the Milky Way in my life.
Suzanne Tatus and her nephew, James, were spellbound.
I couldn't believe my eyes. I've only seen things like that in pictures.
Sue Middendorf came all the way from St. Louis for this view.
It's just beautiful. It really is. It just makes you feel so small.
They look like fireflies gathered around a campfire. But soon it's time to board the Star train and head back. An excursion into the dark that, for a while anyway, sheds a little light on our place in the universe.
Lee Cowan in Ely, Nevada.
Be right back with a 7-day forecast after this. Up into the low 90s later on today. Heat advisories for northeast Oklahoma. Tomorrow's going to be hot and humid. Nice relief over the weekend with rain on Saturday into Sunday and a hot Labor Day ahead. Back right after this. Coming up, some area school districts reporting COVID cases among students after the first week of school. Freeman Hospital officials talk about a treatment aimed at keeping COVID-19 patients out of hospital beds. And how much is too much when it comes to Labor Day weekend gas prices?
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 o'clock. We had a wide variety of temperatures yesterday, but now I think everybody's going to feel the heat by the end of September the 2nd as we go to our daily almanac record back in 2000. You know, that would be the second consecutive day that we hit 105 in 2000. Yeah, it happened on September the 1st, and it then happened again on September the 2nd. I was here for it. It doesn't resonate with me. But yeah, that's crazy to think 105 on back-to-back days for the first and second days of September in the same year. We sit at 72 degrees right now in Joplin. Wind has shifted, now moving in from the east, but just 5 to 10 miles per hour, and keeping our temperatures nice and mild, anywhere from about 67 to 72. On this Thursday morning, we are going to have some cloud cover that's beginning to move in from the west out of central Kansas. Our heat advisories scaled back just a tad. 2 of our highlighted counties in northeast Oklahoma still involved in that, as those will last till about 7 o'clock tonight. But I tell you what, it's still going to be a little hot and humid. Luckily, we are able to stay out of anything what's going on in the Northeast right now. I think we got about a day and a half left of the remnants of Ida, as that thing is just flooding the northeastern portion of the United States. As a matter of fact, making its way all the way through Nova Scotia and Halifax as we speak right now, early in the morning. Severe thunderstorm risk map for us. Now, we'll keep everything up through Nebraska and north central Kansas. Our weather trend going to take us, though, into the high 80s, low 90s. And we are going to have a good deal of humidity that's going to reemerge, especially when we talk about tomorrow. As we push into the weekend, we're going to get some rain that's going to move in from the west from Saturday night into Sunday. And after the Sunday cool down, look at where we go Monday in time for the holiday, all the way back into the low to mid 90s. Local school districts are seeing a number of COVID cases just after the first week of school. Districts in Jasper, Newton, and McDonald counties have seen confirmed cases among students, staff, as well as a number of quarantines. And in Carthage, 10 active cases among students. You have 1 staff case, 47 students under quarantine. Neosho, 22 students have tested positive, 3 staff members, 48 of them under quarantine. And the first day of school in Neosho, there were 9 positive cases. However, the superintendent says those students were not from the school.
Those are students that called in and said, you know, we're positive or we're quarantined. And so we thought, wow, with that number, what's it going to be like when we come back? And really, it has stayed pretty much under control.
Coming up, we'll hear from a county health department on what they were expecting before the school year started and what they're expecting now. Freeman Hospital hosting a COVID-19 briefing yesterday, and at that briefing talking about an antibody infusion that's offered at the hospital. It's a therapy meant to keep high-risk COVID-19 patients out of hospital beds.
Test positive, those are the ones that we can get into our infusion center and basically get that on board. And we try to do that anywhere from the first day up into 10 days after they've tested positive.
Freeman says it's seen an increase in COVID-19 patients of all ages that have a higher need for care. Hospitals in parts of the southern United States are running low on oxygen as the coronavirus pandemic continues. So then we ask the question, what about the 4 states? KOAM's Mike Mahoney spoke to some local hospitals and a 4-state medical supply company to find out more.
As the coronavirus rages on and the Delta variant continues to put people in the hospital, many southern hospitals in states like Florida, Texas, South Carolina, and Louisiana are running low on oxygen. Joplin's Mercy Hospital says that while their oxygen use has roughly tripled in the last 6 to 8 weeks, Mercy and its suppliers can handle the increase.
We've seen a significant climb in the amount of oxygen usage, but as far as deliveries and shortages and any notifications from the suppliers who are monitoring us regularly, we don't see any concerns.
Hospitals like Mercy may be able to handle the increased oxygen demand, but smaller operations like Kansas Medical Supply in Columbus, Kansas are feeling the pinch. They provide at-home and portable use oxygen tanks, and manager Crystal Blake says they've had to cut back on the number of tanks they can provide to customers.
We do the home fill, where they fill the tanks themselves at home, and whereas we would originally take like 4 or 5 tanks for them to fill, we're now taking like 3.
Crystal says the demand for oxygen tanks wasn't always this high, but the Delta variant has forced Kansas Medical Supply to both ration and order more tanks.
Now we are having more cases in this area to where, you know, when it first came out, when COVID was first out, we didn't have a whole lot of requests for oxygen. There was some, but we have more requests for oxygen now with the variant and increased cases in our area.
Mercy says the majority of their COVID patients dealing with severe illness are unvaccinated, and they recommend getting the shot so you don't find yourself gasping for air. In Columbus, Kansas, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
A representative of the Allen County Regional Hospital in Iola says it's not running low on oxygen, but is monitoring the shortage situation in other states just to be prepared. An Oklahoma judge is temporarily blocking a state law that bans public school mask mandates, but personal exemptions to mask wearing will be required. Judge Natalie Mize ruling drew praise from Governor Kevin Stitt, who opposes mask mandates without exemptions, and Dr. Mary Clark, president of the Oklahoma State Medical Association, who joined the lawsuit challenging that law. Governor Stitt says the ruling is a victory for parental choice. Dr. Clark says it allows schools to maintain local control. Judge Mize said the injunction will take effect next week when she issues an official written order. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly announcing she's forming a work group called Safer Classrooms. Governor says it's to protect kids and school staff from COVID-19. It's a group made up of pediatricians, family physicians, pharmacists, and psychologists.
There is nothing more important than keeping our students healthy and alive. The Safer Classrooms work group will help all of us make informed decisions to protect our children and our communities.
Governor says the work group will meet weekly to highlight the importance of protecting kids from COVID-19's Delta variant. Crowder College in Neosho, Missouri is now looking for a new president, and as part of that process, the school's looking for input from the public, hosting a public forum, laying the groundwork for what they're calling a presidential profile. That's going to be used in the recruitment and evaluation of candidates.
I can feel there's a good feeling here on campus. It's a great culture, a great institution, and I think will be a very attractive for some highly qualified presidential applicants.
Anymore. College's current president, Glenn Colthart, he will retire at the end of the school year. Now that we've run into 6:07, I think I've talked over just about every break known to man right now. As we push up into the high 80s later on today, you have to forgive me. We're having a very interesting conversation considering the things going on of the day. Future Track has some cloud cover moving in for the afternoon. Light scattered rain showers, but we really don't pick up until Friday. And all our action is going to appear out to the west and then move through us from Friday into Saturday. And then as we get in from Saturday into Sunday, we're going to have additional rainfall. There we go. Early Saturday morning, some of that is certainly going to be some thunderstorm activity with heavier rain, especially up in the northern portion of the 4 states. And look at that band. It stretches all the way from Mexico to the Canadian border. So it is quite impressive in nature. And while at the beginning it gives us a nice little cool down for Saturday and Sunday, you know, Sunday afternoon, if you're going to be out and about, it should be absolutely delightful after the rain passes through. Look at what happens on Monday. Now, I know most of you hopefully have a day off and get to enjoy it, but it is going to be a little bit hot out there because we're going to jaunt right back up into the low 90s. We're going to have a whole bunch of humidity, and then we just keep on increasing all the way until we get to the mid to high 90s by the middle of next week. That's a look at our top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News. Turns out there were fewer jobs added than expected in the midst of the pandemic. And why pretend when you can be behind the wheel of Bond, James Bond? Yes, Miss Moneypenny. Yeah, I got it. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. The ADP employment report came out with far fewer jobs added in August than projected. It shows 374,000 new private sector jobs were added. Now, 374,000 added. Well, the projection from economists was 600,000. Most of the new jobs were in the leisure and hospitality sector. Of course, that was one of the industries hardest hit by the pandemic. One company that is adding jobs is Walmart. Box store giant planning to hire 20,000 full and part-time employees to bolster the supply chain. The permanent jobs will be at the company's distribution, fulfillment, and transportation centers, with hiring events being held all next week. Employers are instituting more vaccine mandates. There's a new survey from the consultant Willis Towers Watson. It shows more than half of U.S. employers are planning or considering requirements for a COVID-19 vaccination by the end of 2021. Just more than 20% of companies surveyed currently have such a rule in place. 14% of those say they're considering a healthcare surcharge for those who choose not to get vaccinated. Now, with more Money Watch, Elise Preston. She's got more exciting news than I do.
Stocks ended mixed yesterday as investors await Friday's August employment report for clues on the economy. The Dow Jones fell 48 points, the Nasdaq jumped 50, and the S&P 500 rose 1. A federal bankruptcy judge has given conditional approval to a sweeping settlement that would remove the Sackler family from ownership of OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma. Under the settlement, the Sacklers have to get out of the opioid business altogether and contribute $4.5 billion to fighting the opioid crisis. In return, they will be shielded from future lawsuits over opioids. Paramount Pictures is postponing the release of Top Gun Maverick until next Memorial Day weekend in May. The Top Gun sequel, starring Tom Cruise, had been set to hit the big screen in November. The Delta variant is prompting the delay of a number of film releases. Paramount Pictures is a unit of Viacom CBS. And that's your CBS Money Watch report. For more, head to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the New York Stock Exchange, I'm Elise Preston.
From one vintage movie to another, Top Gun to James Bond, Aston Martin has built a car made for a spy. Get this. company is selling 25 life-size versions of its classic 007 James Bond 1965 toy car. Now, here's what you get. You get a working smoke screen, you get a deployable bulletproof shield. Luckily, the machine guns are fake, but they do emerge from the corner lights. $3.5 million. It can be yours. We do run into one small problem. Evidently, they're not street legal. And also, too, if you need a smoke screen and bulletproof glass windows, I don't know, man. I think you may have bigger problems in life than worrying about me on the KOM Morning News. Be right back after this. Let's start out with our daily almanac on this September the 2nd. Look at that. Look at that high from 2000. Back-to-back days. I brought that up earlier. That's back-to-back days that we've had 105 degrees, and sure enough, the previous one was in the year 2000 as well, as we sit at 72 degrees right now over Joplin. It's been absolutely a delightful morning as the wind has now shifted, moving in from the west with very limited cloud cover, but I'll tell you what, we're keeping our eyes on what's hanging out to the west. Now, here's the thing. It's not going to be here anytime soon, but going to keep our eyes on it because we saw what happened over Omaha on Monday when everything stayed contained and dropped down on us. This one moving out of Wichita, it wants to break up there before it gets to us. But like I said, this is what we're going to monitor today because it's been very unpredictable as of late. Grab the umbrella, take it with you. Going to see 90s, especially down to the southwest. A little bit warmer when you get up to the north. Thank you, Dylan. A little bit warmer when you get up to the north and to the east. I'm a hand talker. What can I say? We'll be back with more KOM Morning News right after this. Topping Health Watch this morning, sleep apnea, a condition that we associate with adults. But the American Heart Association is warning the sleep disorder is common in children and may impact their heart health. Bradley Blackburn with the story.
Ureli Aguilar-Cielo has concerns about her son's sleep.
He will always sleep with his mouth open. He will breathe for a couple of seconds and he'll pause and he'll breathe again. I just feel really tired.
9-year-old Giovanni suffers from sleep apnea, a disorder that affects up to 6% of children and adolescents. The American Heart Association says the quality of a child's sleep and sleep apnea may impact blood pressure, heart structure, and other heart health factors.
Having obstructive sleep apnea can be associated with higher blood pressure, metabolic syndrome, conditions like obesity and high blood pressure and high cholesterol. When they occur in childhood, they do tend to track into adulthood.
Dr. Carissa Baker authored the statement. Symptoms include snoring more than 3 nights a week, as well as gasps or labored breathing and daytime sleepiness.
Some of the kids who we're seeing who may be having difficulty focusing and things like that during the day in school, ask about their sleep. These are critical times in a child's life when their brains are developing.
And obesity in children is also a factor. As many as 60% of adolescents who are obese have sleep apnea. Giovanni had his tonsils out and his sleep improved a little.
5 hours of physical activity per week.
His doctor also wants him to focus on lifestyle changes to get to a healthier weight.
I feel like the tiredness does affect him a little bit. I just want the best and hopefully he can get the help he needs.
His mom hopes with a good night's rest, Giovanni will have better days. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
The Heart Association recommends a sleep study for children and adults to diagnose sleep disorder breathing. That's a look at today's top health story as you're watching the KOM Morning News. Let's take a live look over 7th and Rangeline. We're starting to see the sky lighten up just a little bit. We've still got about 25 minutes there until we get to official sunrise over Joplin. It's been a delightful morning, however, 72 degrees. And I tell you what, here's the great thing about live television is we can take that camera and we can go ahead and transition over here and look at that beautiful cloud cover that we're seeing, giving us some wonderful purples and pinks on this Thursday morning. That's hard to beat for early September. A little earth, wind, and fire. That's what just crossed my mind. Let's go 70 in Pittsburgh, 68 in Monette, 71 in Neodesha. Not a wide variety of temperatures unlike what we had yesterday. Remember, yesterday we had about a 10 to 12 degree difference. We've got all the cloud cover hanging off to the west, and just on the backside of that cloud cover, good thunderstorm activity that ranges from west central Kansas up through Nebraska. Now, when we get to the severe thunderstorm risk map, you'll also see that's the greatest threat for the contiguous 48 for today. So we're anticipating that breaking up as it progresses toward us. I'm still going to err on the side of caution and say grab the umbrella, because we could get a little fallout from it. Now, it's not going to be sustained. It's not going to be that elongated line that we see right now. Also, too, we do have a heat advisory for northeast Oklahoma. Certainly not widespread as what we had yesterday. That thing yesterday lasted all the way through Oklahoma down to the Gulf Coast. But as you can tell, above normal temperatures for September. Now you get up to the north into the eastern portion of the 4 states, and it's not going to be bad at all. Probably be about mid-80s. It'll be very delightful. There's Ida continuing to flood New England all the way up through Nova Scotia right now. One more day, and she should finally push out to the Atlantic, and we'll be done with her. And there's the severe thunderstorm risk map that we were just talking about, with that same area through central Nebraska and into north central Kansas as well. Our weather trend is going to send us up into the high 80s and low 90s there, where we see the heat advisories with mostly sunny skies to begin, but then the growing cloud cover. Not a bad thing, though. That kind of helps us out temperature-wise when we get those afternoon clouds. And you'll see a little spotted rain as we work from Friday into Saturday. Now, it also begins to pick up as we get closer to the weekend, and we've got a good old-fashioned heat wave coming next week. We'll be back right after this. Coming up, some area school districts reporting COVID cases among students after the first week of school. We'll have the latest on immunizations, hospitalizations, and quarantines. Plus, the Taliban taking over Afghanistan, what the U.S. military left behind, and how much is too much when it comes to gas prices on a Labor Day weekend.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good Thursday morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News, where it's 6:30. I'm Michael Hayslip. We've got those stories and more on the way. We're going to start, though, with a live look over 7th and Range Line and what is turning out to be another gorgeous September morning. We've really been spoiled here for about the past week, even though we had those temperatures that were just cruising into the 90s for the past couple of days. Think about how we closed off August. Our mornings really have been gorgeous right now. And, I hope you have a chance to get outside and enjoy a little bit of Mother Nature while the temperatures are actually nice and mild. Let's go 69 in Lamar, 72 in Miami, 71 in Neodesha, and 69 as well in Nevada. As Skywatch Storm Tracker has remained clear, you'll see a little bit of cloud cover out there by the Wichita area on the left-hand side of your screen. There's some pretty good old-fashioned thunderstorm activity working its way out of western Kansas right now, and that's why I'm saying just keep the umbrella in the car. I don't think this is going to be as sustained as what we saw on Monday when it dropped down from the north from Omaha. But we are going to see some drops every now and then for the late morning and afternoon hours. Even with that being said, heat advisory in effect for northeast Oklahoma. So once you get down to the south, you get out to the west. Those will be our hottest temperatures, where we'll see low 90s, and in those areas for the south and the west, feeling about like 97, 98. Central portion of the 4 states will go about 89, 90 and feel about 94, 95. And then as you work up to the north and to the east, say about 87, 88, feel about like 92, 93. So that's what we're looking at. Now, as far as the rain goes, mainly western portion, I really think that thing's going to break up before it gets to the central parts. But once again, we saw what happened on Monday as well. And so that's why it's not going to hurt to take the umbrella with you this morning. 4 state school districts are reporting students testing positive for COVID-19 just after the first week of school. Districts in Jasper and Newton County, Missouri have seen positive cases among students and staff, had to quarantine several students as well. KOAM's Zach Dodge details the story and why one 4 state health department is not surprised to see these numbers.
22 students in Neosho are currently not in school, under isolation after testing positive.
The cases that we have seem to be somewhat isolated and controlled.
9 of them on the first day.
That first day we were somewhat alarmed and what we found out, and those are students that called in and said, you know, we're positive.
Other than that, the highest increase from day to day has been 5 from August 31st to September 1st.
I haven't really pinpointed as to where most of these kids might have gotten it, but certainly the ones when we asked them, there's no clear, a school staff member or a schoolmate had it, and then we were in contact with them.
Larry Bergner at the Newton County Health Department isn't surprised by the cases.
We expect to see positives.
And it isn't just in Neosho. As of Friday, Joplin had 17 positives among students and 135 students with quarantine designations. And Carthage had 10 positives with 47 students being quarantined. At least in Newton County anyway, Bergner expects the year to look about like it did last year.
September, October, we saw increasing numbers, and as we got into late October, November, we saw a rapid decline.
If we can manage like we are right now to keep the case level low, I think we'll be okay. I think if we see a spike in cases, we'll be looking at other solutions.
Those other solutions in Neosho would be requiring masks if 7% of students in a school test positive, or closing schools if positive student cases reach 10%. In Neosho, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Now in Neosho, 0.5% of students have tested positive. 1.6% of students have been identified as what's called a close contact. A Missouri judge refuses to reinstate federal unemployment benefits that were cut in June. That's when Governor Mike Parson pulled out of several state programs. A judge in Cole County, Missouri, Judge John Beadham, said the court would not substitute its judgment for that of the governor. That ruling by Judge Beadham comes a day after lawyers representing Missouri residents who lost the jobless benefits asked for reinstatement and did so wanting back pay. The enhanced benefits added money to the unemployment checks for out-of-work Americans, helping ease the crunch caused by shutdowns for the COVID-19 pandemic. But some Republican governors, including Governor Parson, ended the benefits to try to prod people to rejoin the workforce. In Overland Park, Kansas, police announced yesterday a 23-year-old officer who was battling COVID-19 died. Officer Freddie Castro tested positive for COVID in July.
Sad. He fought till this afternoon when it was time for him to go. I mean, he was here for 37 days, 35 of those days on that ventilator, and I tell you, to see what he has gone through and the shape that he was in, no one should go through that. This virus is not to be taken lightly.
Police Chief Frank Donchez released a statement on Facebook that said, "It is with a heavy heart that I share that Overland Park police officer Freddie Castro passed away a short time ago. Freddie was a young, enthusiastic, and so proud to be a police officer. He left a lasting impact on our department, and we will miss him. Please keep Freddie's family, his friends, and his OPPD family in your thoughts and prayers." The head of Oklahoma's Medicaid agency says the $164 million appropriated by the Oklahoma legislature for Medicaid expansion remains untouched in an agency savings account. Oklahoma Healthcare Authority CEO Kevin Corbett told legislators the agency has used savings generated from Medicaid expansion and federal funds so far to pay for the expansion. Corbett told lawmakers an estimated 700 to 800 Oklahomans are qualifying each day for health care coverage under Medicaid expansion, although he does expect that number to slow down in the coming months. As of Monday, Corbett says about 170,000 people in the Sooner State had qualified for Medicaid under the expansion. Crowder College in Neosho, Missouri is looking for a new president. And as part of that process, the school looking for input from the public as it hosted a forum to lay the groundwork for what the college is calling a presidential profile. It will be used in turn for the recruitment and evaluation of candidates.
There are many capable people out there, but finding someone who's truly a fit for this college culture, which is very unique, everyone is, but that's going to be the critical challenge for the search committee and for the board. And I'm confident that we will find a really good president moving forward for the future.
College's current president, Glenn Coltharp, will retire at the end of the school year. Area high school counselors were honored at Missouri Southern as the college hosted Counselor Appreciation Day, a chance for counselors to learn about new scholarships, housing opportunities, and academic opportunities.
New programs that we offer, new housing options, new scholarships. They're also going to be hearing from some of our academic programs who are going to tell them everything that is involved with that academic program, mostly our new ones, mostly our very immersive, very hands-on learning ones.
The counselors also had a chance to win one of 5 $1,000 scholarships. And here's the really neat thing. The counselors can distribute those scholarships however they see fit. As part of Missouri Southern's Japan semester, students are learning about an iconic Japanese film. You may know it as Godzilla. At a seminar in Corley Auditorium called Godzilla Unbound, students learned about the film's cultural impact. The original Japanese version of the film was not just a scarefest monster movie. It featured allusions to the American atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Godzilla Unbound, just one piece of a larger mission at Missouri Southern this semester.
By some aspect of Japanese culture and perhaps want to learn more and study on their own. And so they're just getting a brief taste of Japan today. We have really 40 more events yet to come. It's just the beginning of our Japan semester.
Other events included a sidewalk chalk contest and a screening of the film Akiru. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOM Morning News.
Ida moves into the Northeast, overwhelming New York City with rain. I'm Bradley Blackburn with more on the storm's path of destruction.
And protesters take to the streets after a controversial abortion decision. Our 7-day forecast has temperatures in the 90s for the next 2 days, cooling off over the Labor Day weekend, but then back to the 90s on Labor Day itself. We'll be back with Nation Watch next. Topping Nation Watch this morning, from devastating Gulf Coast hurricane to menacing tropical storm Ida, lashing a massive part of the eastern United States with torrential rainfall. Now on top of that, there's also powerful winds and now tornadoes as it moves to the north. 5 people killed in the New York and New Jersey areas. Bradley Blackburn, he's in New York. He has the latest.
Look at that tornado!
Storm chasers captured these images of a twister touching down in New Jersey. Ida continues its relentless march north as tornado watches and flash flood warnings were issued across large parts of the Northeast Wednesday night. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy declared a state of emergency. Here in New York City, the National Weather Service says it issued its first ever flash flood emergency for parts of the city. Floodwaters surged into this New York City apartment and turned this wide boulevard into a lake. The retractable roof at the U.S. Open Tennis Stadium wasn't enough to hold back Ida's rain and wind, forcing this match to be called off. And parts of the subway system taking on a waterfall of rain from the sidewalks above. In Pennsylvania, a Good Samaritan rescued a family in their car, carrying a child to safety.
Somebody needed help, I went for it. I've been in this situation before, nowhere near this bad.
Earlier, tornadoes touched down in Maryland, and flooding inundated large parts of the state, driving residents from this apartment building where a man died and another resident was missing.
We have about 150 people that are displaced.
In New Orleans, hundreds of thousands remain in the dark and heat after Hurricane Ida knocked out power throughout the city. Around the state, residents lack running water and are lining up for essentials like gasoline.
Everyone is being very neighborly and cordial, and we're just going to keep fighting through.
Tomorrow, President Biden is set to visit Louisiana to survey the damage. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Authorities also saying a postal service building roof collapsed in Kearney, New Jersey, and did so with people inside. They do not have any reports of any injuries as of yet. Police in North Carolina say a student who was shot at a high school yesterday afternoon has died. Forsyth County, North Carolina. The Sheriff's Department says no one else was hurt and the suspect is in custody. It's also believed that the suspect is a student at the school. This fatal shooting happens to be the second school shooting in North Carolina this week alone. Protesters gathered in Texas after the U.S. Supreme Court failed to block the state's controversial abortion law from taking effect at midnight. The measure bans abortions as early into 6 weeks of pregnancy, which is before many women even know they're pregnant. The bill also allows citizens to sue anyone who assists a woman in getting an abortion after 6 weeks. Those who are successful with their lawsuits could be awarded a minimum of $10,000. The Supreme Court could still weigh in on the Texas law. That is a look at today's top national stories as far as our 7-day forecast goes as we press into our Labor Day weekend. It'll be a warm one today. We were able to kind of scale back on our heat advisories. We've got 2 of our counties in northeast Oklahoma that are currently under those, but we'll see consistently high 80s and low 90s. It gets a little bit better as you work to the north and east of the Ozarks. That's where you very well could be Monette, Mount Vernon, roll that way up to Nevada, Butler. Very well could be mid 80s, and that'll be it. Now, you work out west, no, you probably run into about 92, 93. And then get ready for a hot, hot Friday as well. Rain's going to cool us off, though, over the weekend, and then a Labor Day that's back into the 90s. We'll be back and celebrate some birthdays and anniversaries right after this. We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero. Or we will go, well, I'll do Brexton first. That's cool. I'm down with Brexton turning 5. That's because that's a good looking picture right there. Louis! Hold on, Brexton, don't go anywhere, buddy. I want to take a look at this. What we got here? That's a good catch. I like that. I like that, Brexton. Hey, anytime, I tell you what, man, anytime you're going to hit one of the pits with a pole, you got to let us know. Because if you're going to be bringing in stuff like that at the age of 5, I tell you what, I want to be there. I won't be there and see how big those fish get, my friend. So happy 5th birthday to Brexton in Thayer. We've got a 12th birthday for Natalie Storm. What a gorgeous picture, Miss Natalie. Natalie turns the big number 12, and she is in Jasper. Brett Davis, now a teenager. Happy 13th to Brett. And hey, Brett, I want you to know this comes with love from Mom, Dad, and Sis. In Iola, a 28th birthday for Brittany Johnson. Brittany, I understand, that's having your hands full there as everybody gets back to school. But what a wonderful picture right there, and a happy birthday to Brittany. And Clark Egbert, a very happy birthday as well. Clark is celebrating in McCune. Check out this anniversary, 49 years. How great is this? Brent and Peggy Sutherland. 49 years of marriage in Galena. Brent and Peggy, a very, very happy anniversary and congratulations. That is tremendous right there. I got to find out why a couple people here don't have pictures. Daniel, you're on the list. But I'll find out. No, Daniel, a very happy birthday to Daniel Clugston. He's celebrating in Columbus. Matt Saporito is also in Columbus. Matt, a happy birthday to you. And also, too, I'm going to have to put you on our why don't we have a picture? But, I get you. Let's go with Randy Miller, celebrating number 62. Randy is in Chanute, and Patty Wirtz. Patty had her birthday yesterday, but if you're in Oswego or you're running around Labco and you run into Miss Patty, make sure you please tell her a happy birthday. And a happy birthday and happy anniversary to all on this 2nd day of September. Here's where you send them into. You can either go to birthdays at koamtv.com, or if you choose to go to our website, that's at koamnewsnow.com. Also, too, while you're on our website, if that's part of your morning routine, and then remember our Facebook page can get you there as well. But anyway, if you ever jump on koamnewsnow.com, I want you to try to take advantage of this because we have this thing called the KOAM Birthday Club. And all you have to do is go to our website and sign up. And it's awesome because we've got so many great local sponsors that you get special deals from 4-state businesses that support the Birthday Club. And once again, it's as easy as, I don't know, it'd probably take 30 seconds of your time. And all you have to do is go to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today. We're going to come back and wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News. Take one last look at your 7-day forecast right after this.